So there is no update this weekend, and War Tycoon currently actually has a sale where everything is just in general going to be a much cheaper price. So I thought I'm going to be making an updated ranking for you guys in terms of the best game passes you should definitely try to buy. And the way in which I'm going to be making this list today is out of two categories. One is going to be value for your money, and second is how viable these things actually are in the modern meta as of now. So anyway, let's just jump right into it. So firstly, moving right into the F tier, I'm going to be placing the camo customizer in there. That's going to be a pretty simple option, but it simply just does not provide you with any advantages which you want to have out of a game pass. The only real win you get from this is that you don't constantly have to spend your money in the camo cases where you have to constantly spend Robux for a unique skin. I guess you could make the skin yourself. That is the only argument you could really make about this being any useful. But then again, the reason why you're buying these game passes is because you want to actually gain something out of them. This one just simply works as a support to the devs more than anything else. Now moving to the back of E tier, I will be picking the auto collect, and I'm gonna be honest, it really doesn't give you anything, to be honest. It really just solves an issue in the game, which is not an issue in any ways, basically. So you're spending your money to basically solve your laziness. Once again, I do believe this to be a little too overpriced for what it provides. If maybe it was for 50 Robux, it would have been much more worth it, but once again, it doesn't provide you with anything in this meta, and it really doesn't help you at all. Anyway, now moving into the next game pass, which is going to be ahead of it, is going to be the double HP armor. Now the only two arguments which you could make for buying this is that it does look cooler than the standard 2x HP armor which we get downstairs in the bunker, and another reason for that is that you haven't yet unlocked the bunker. Those are the only reasons you should be buying this. Most of the time I will suggest you guys actually just hold your money and wait until you rebirth and actually buy a better armor set, which just provides you with actual advantages rather than spending the same price for something that's just way worse. And now lastly, moving into the front of E tier, I will be picking the speedy oil extractor. The only reason you would actually buy this is if you are a starter player that just got on the game. That is the only reason you should buy this, because getting 20 cash, I guess, every second is not really a lot, to be honest. It really, once again, does not provide you with too much, and you are spending around 39 Robux on this on average, so you're basically kind of throwing them down the drain and once again, kind of supporting the devs in a way. Because if you take a look at other extractors, even in the first main building, majority of them are actually just better than the one you're spending Robux for. I really do believe that this thing deserves a buff. And now moving into the back of D tier, firstly we're gonna be starting with the JOTV. Honestly, man, when this thing was first updated, it was actually a pretty good game pass. However, now it pretty much just is a vehicle that's a part of a dead vehicle class. If you see anybody going around in a JOTV in really any vehicle, you're either gonna shoot them with missiles from literally 2000 stats, or you're just going to end up one-tapping them with a tank cannon. This thing really does not serve a purpose right now in the modern meta. Just like most other ground vehicles, you really are only gonna be spawning the garage vehicles if you want a quick anti-air vehicle or quickly take care of your problem. Well, this vehicle does not solve any problems. It kind of just works like a slower, speedy Humvee with a javelin and being able to see through walls. But realistically, the only advantage you get from seeing through walls with the javelin is that you can run away from your enemies more effectively. But you're not spending 200 Robux in order to run away. You're supposed to be spending them to gain some kind of competitive advantage, and this vehicle just simply does not provide one for you. Now, a vehicle which is going to be slightly ahead of the JOTV is going to be the speedy Humvee, which by far is the fastest ground vehicle in the game. But that is an issue of its own, because currently the rocks make it almost impossible to actually hit your maximum speed in this modern meta and the modern map which we are using. So basically the new map update kind of nerfed this game pass in a way, because people used to use this thing to quickly get from base to base, but that's just much harder to do now due to all the rocks which are around the map. And the worst part is that this thing is already power crept by hovercrafts, which have a literal self-defense kit once you're traveling around the map. But with this you could also traverse water and overall terrain much better, because hovercrafts can go on water and they do just have better physics in terms of cruising around on ground. So I simply do not suggest you guys to be buying the speedy Humvee. And now lastly, moving to the top of D tier, I will be placing the Boxer there. So here's the thing, the Boxer is the most expensive out of all the ground vehicles which you're gonna be buying. However, it does actually have some kind of okay use, and that's going to be tank combat. You're not gonna end up getting one-shotted in this vehicle, so that's really the only advantage of it. It is also a pretty fast vehicle, and it does provide you with smoke, so I guess you could use it semi-competitively from time to time, but either way you are still going to be a huge victim to helicopters, which will be able to basically mow you down in 1 second just like they do to hovercrafts. Really, you don't have a reason to spawn the boxer to defend your base. If you want to actually beat a tank in a 1v1, you're always going to be spawning your own tank or just other vehicles in general, but you're never going to be picking the vehicle class, which is the garage vehicles. It's simply not a good option anymore. And now moving into the back of C tier, where things do get pretty decent. After the recent buff, the destroyer drone and a lot of other drones in general now have much higher health, which means you can really be a pain to a lot of enemies. This thing does provide you with 16 grenades, which I believe is actually pretty good if you want to defend your base, and a lot of people are not actually gonna see this drone coming as a base defense, because who uses drones? So this vehicle does kind of act like a surprise to the enemy who's actually raiding your base, and I have to say it is still a little bit overpriced, which is the main reason why I'm not gonna be ranking it any higher, but due to the fact that a lot of vehicles do not really have any drone defenses, this might just end up being pretty useful from time to time if you also just enjoy drones as a vehicle class. And now moving into 2x Shield. This is a very affordable game pass, and the only real reason why you would want to buy it is if you are a person that's constantly rebirthing and you just want to be left alone, or at least don't get attacked as much. And another reason why you would probably want this is if you are constantly being raided and you simply need to buy yourself some extra time to spawn a vehicle to defend your base. This might actually end up being semi-useful from time to time, and I see most of the players in this game are actually using 10k shield by now, so it really does showcase that this thing does have some pretty good value for its money. It does only cost you 150 Robux, which is actually pretty cheap. And now lastly, moving into the top of C tier, the Desert Eagle is by far the cheapest weapon in the game, and that's the only reason I will recommend it to you guys. The pistols overall are a dead class in terms of weapons. However, what makes this pistol pretty good is that you can actually two-shot headshot your enemy. But the thing is, there is no point of buying this pistol if you can get a fully automatic weapon like the FAL Heavy. The only reason I'm placing it so high, to be honest, is because it can be semi-useful in the right hands, and it's also extremely affordable. It's actually one of the cheapest game passes in the game. And now moving into the back of B tier, firstly I'm going to be picking the Mi-28 Havoc, and the only reason why this thing is so high, even though this isn't a good helicopter by any means, the only reason I'm putting it here because it is a helicopter, and that is a pretty strong vehicle class, which majority of the time will be able to counter most tanks and most boats without any issues, just because of its simple and nimble hitbox, good speed, and just decent firepower in general. Of course, you do have better helicopters like the Mangusta, the Raider X, the AH-1Z Viper, Super Hind, the Apache, even the standard Apache, the Apache Longbow. This is not a good helicopter by any means. However, you can actually buy it if you want to have a useful and easy to use heli, because one thing that I noticed that's really good about the Mi-28, that's really underrated about it as well, is how easy this thing is to use compared to a lot of our helicopters. You don't need much experience in the game to actually get a hang of this. However, keep in mind it can be kind of expensive, and I would probably suggest you guys to be saving your money to buy something a little bit better like the F-35, because a plane is also in general going to be a little harder to use. However, in the end it will be a better vehicle class, which will be able to just be a lot more multi-role than this thing is gonna be. And now lastly, moving into the top of B tier, I will be placing the explosive sniper there. The only reason why the explosive sniper is so low in the modern meta is because it has been heavily power crept by things like the grenade launcher, the C4. There are just so much more explosives in the modern meta, and the explosive sniper simply does not provide you this fresh value of something completely new. It doesn't bring anything new to the table. It's just a sniper that has a bit of smoke and makes it a little bit easier for you to aim. Keep in mind, you can just simply counter the smoke which the explosive sniper creates if you just turn off one of the settings in this game. And this is another funny thing. You are spending over 2,000 Robux to easily get countered by somebody that can use settings to get rid of your highest strength. Anyway, the explosive sniper does definitely need a buff, and the only good thing that I see about it right now is that it is a good secondary weapon which you could use for destroying vehicles, since the RPG isn't always going to be super reliable at destroying tanks simply because of the fact that APS exists. The explosive sniper can comfortably hit for APS, so that's the only reason I would be using this thing. It can be okay at ground combat, but like I said, there's just so many better options, and people in general are going to be using the C4 against you, which is much more effective in terms of explosive damage anyway. Now moving into the A tier, at the back of it I will be placing the USS Zumwalt. This thing is actually pretty great right now after the recent buff. It is an extremely versatile boat, and it is by far the strongest boat in the game in terms of pure brute force. However, the limitations of the Zumwalt are two things. Its extreme price of up to 2,000 Robux. However, another issue that this boat has is its vehicle class. The boats unfortunately in this game are not able to really get into combat with a lot of enemies because they are not forced to fight you. You might just end up getting ignored if nobody wants to deal with a Zumwalt. They really do not have to do that, unlike dealing with vehicles like the Abrams X, the Overlord, the F-35, even the Mi-28. Those vehicles are a constant threat to you, where boats are never going to be a threat. I believe the boats have a best use case right now for countering stinky submarine users, but also in general being very good at defending your base. This boat can be very useful at even being able to 3v1 enemies due to its insane brute force that the missile, the cannon, and just everything in general provides it for you. Unfortunately, it is limited by its vehicle class, which is why I cannot place it any higher. Now, a vehicle which I'm going to be placing right above it is going to be the Abrams X, which right now is actually pretty close with a lot of other tanks. And the only reason why I would actually pick the Abrams X so high is because this tank is extremely easy to use. A lot of other tanks require different strategies, where what the Abrams X does for you is it allows you to tackle enemies at very long range without having to actually engage with them in the initial combat. And that is definitely a good thing about the Abrams X, because this tank is actually not very good at dealing with enemies up close, because a lot of other tanks now specialize in brute force exchanges, which the Abrams X is simply not that good at it compared to a lot of other tanks in the game. But what makes it very good is just how much of a jack of all trades tank it is. It can pretty much tackle any enemies. It's very good against helicopters which are flying low due to the drones being fast and very effective against them. This tank's also just amazing at countering planes, just like any tank in this meta, due to the fact that the cannon shell literally one-taps the enemies, and you also have APS to defend missiles from the planes, which is of course going to be their primary way of killing you. The Abrams X has in general never fell off. It was always a great tank to choose as a brand new player. You definitely have a lot to learn in terms of tank combat if you do buy this thing. However, once you learn to play effectively with the Abrams X, it is by far going to be the best or the second best tank. And now lastly, moving into the top of A tier, I will be placing the HACV Overlord in there. And the simple reason why the Overlord has always been so good is because it's amazing for raiding bases, it's amazing at countering tanks, it's great at countering planes. It's just an overall very strong vehicle which can also get you from A to B if you need it, due to its insane 91 speed. And one huge advantage of this vehicle is how easy it can actually traverse environment compared to a lot of other vehicles in this game. It's one of those vehicles which you also use for convenience purposes. However, it does actually get countered by helicopters, so always keep that in mind due to the flak not being very good against them, but also hovercrafts in general do take more damage than most other vehicles in the game. However, if you use the Overlord correctly, it's almost never going to be disappointing you. It's one of those very solid game passes, however, it just simply cannot go higher on this list due to its price and some disadvantages holding it back. And now at the top of A tier, I will be placing the F-35 Lightning, and this is one of those planes which has never fell off from grace, just like the Abrams X. This was always a great multi-role plane which you always picked for pretty much everything you want in the game. If you want to be a good dogfighter, you can use the F-35 for this. If you want to be good at killing ground vehicles, you can use this. If you want to kill boats, you can use this plane. It does also have veto, which can be very useful in terms of pairing it up with its bombs, and it does also help you outturn a lot of enemies in terms of a actual dogfight. However, keep in mind, you can get countered if you are using veto, but in general, F-35 is also just a very easy plane to use. And the thing is that this vehicle has the best vehicle class in the game, which just simply puts it the highest out of all the other Game Pass vehicles which I will be placing on this list. The only thing that really holds back the F-35 right now is simply going to be its cost. I don't think this vehicle is worth the $20. I really suggest you guys to be spending your money in real life for something a lot better. You really don't need to spend $20 on a video game. It's never a suggestion suggested choice from me, personally. However, the F-35 will not disappoint you if you are to purchase this thing by any means. Now, moving into the S tier of the best, we're gonna be starting with the FAO Heavy or the FAO Heavy, whatever you want to call it. This is by far one of the best assault rifles in the game, tied with the KS-1. The one thing that makes the FAO Heavy so extremely good is how good it is in terms of brute force exchanges. The FAO will primarily be used for 1v1s up close, however, it's also pretty good at long range. However, buying it also does depend on what kind of assault rifle player are you. Are you a player that prefers high damage and low fire rate, or are you somebody that prefers high fire rate and lower damage? This is really up to you. Personally, I prefer high damage weapons because I don't have to as reliably hit my shots with it. However, in general, the FAO Heavy is also extremely cheap, and it will be an extremely reliable weapon if you do use it correctly. Now, right above this, I will be placing the Barrett M82, and the Barrett has recently gotten nerfed, hence is the reason why I will not be placing it any higher. However, this is in general still the best weapon in the game due to the fact that you can literally one-shot headshot enemies with insane fire rate. However, with this, it is also an anti-material rifle, and this weapon does also have some really good hipfire accuracy. It's one of those weapons which hasn't been nerfed with the snipers a long time ago as much, so you really do not need to bug abuse to use this sniper correctly and actually get some kills up close. This is still by far the best sniper in the game. And now lastly, moving into the top of S tier, I will be placing the 2x cache in there. This is simply the second best game pass, which you always should be choosing as a brand new player. With this, it's also extremely useful for late game players, because if you are planning to be grinding for achievements for the Rebirth 69 or grinding for Rebirth 100, it's always going to be helping you so much in terms of speeding up your progress. And the value for its money is absolutely insane, because there is never going to be a point of time in which you want to be buying the cache. And now lastly, moving into the number one position, this is by far the best game pass that you can buy in this game, which literally rewards you with, I guess, a suit, 2x armor, and an extra weapon. There is no reason why I should always be buying the standard 2x armor. You should always be buying this version because it provides you with a bonus weapon, and that really does increase the value of this game pass. It's in general something that you need in modern combat, because that extra 100 HP will always be a huge advantage in terms of most fights. In this weapon, it's also pretty decent. If you are a starter player, you might actually get the hang of it pretty well, and this thing does do some pretty high damage. Overall, just an above average weapon in this game. And once again, this game pass just provides it to you for free, for absolutely no extra costs. But anyway, guys, do let me know in the comment section down below which here is your favorite game pass, which other ranking I should do next. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and thanks so much to all my channel members.